ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. We shall continue our journey on chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita. And now we will start from verse number 23. Now, verse number 23 is actually linked to verse number 21. So we will, we will discuss that linkage. इस प्रकार पुरुष और गुणों के सहित प्रकृति को जो मनुष्य तत्व से जानता है वह सब प्रकार से कर्तव्य कर्म करता हुआ भी फिर नहीं जन्मता है. Now this is a very fundamental statement कि once we know Prakriti and Purush and the difference between them and the qualities of those two, then we are free from the cycle of birth and death, despite whatever we are doing. Now, the word here is Vartmano api, Sarvatha Vartmano api, that whatever you are doing will not impact you and will be neutralized, will not form a seed, and you will not take birth again. Now, verse number 21 said that प्रकृति में स्थित ही पुरुष प्रकृति से उत्पन्न त्रिगुणात्मक पदार्थों को भोगता है और इन गुणों का संग ही जीवात्मा की अच्छी बुरी योनियों में जन्म लेने का कारण है. Now, these two things have to be understood very well. You see, Prakriti is the one where things happen, and Purush is the one where the feelings happen or where the perception happen. For example, you construct a house. Now the house has been constructed. Your friend comes, the activity has happened in the nature, in Prakriti. And your friend comes and says, बहुत अच्छा घर बनाया, that you made a very nice house. Now that very nice house is actually coming from where? It's coming from the consciousness. The bhavna jo hai, all the feelings, all the, quality and quantitative statements, they come from the consciousness. They originate from the consciousness. For example, you go for a morning walk and you see beautiful mountains. Now, the beautiful mountains are there in the nature. All that is in that part of the nature. But the beautiful mountains you see and the feeling that comes to inside you is not nature. That is the feeling of what you call Kshetragya. That is the feeling which is coming from consciousness. So everything happens in nature, but the evaluation of those things, whether they are good, whether they are bad, whether they are pleasing, whether they are non-pleasing, whether they give you happiness, whether they give you unhappiness, all that comes from the consciousness. Now that is the reason why the consciousness and Prakriti, the nature, they are related in our body system to a great extent. Now that is the cause of the biggest problem. You see, the body is totally, if you take the body out, if you look at a dead man, now since there is no consciousness there, that is only Prakriti. Now the consciousness comes into that body and gives it a life. So that is the first association of consciousness with the body. From there the life starts. Because of that association, we all the time believe that my body is me. That is the normal feeling amongst most of us. When we feel that my stomach is hungry, we feel that I am hungry. When my body is tired, I feel that I am tired. When my body feels thirsty, I feel that I am thirsty. So we associate everything which body does or feels with one's own self. Now that is association. That association brings about a sort of unity between the two, and that unity brings our consciousness very close to the Prakriti, to the uh, Kshetra. And Kshetra and Kshetragya, they become in a way united and one. And because of that, our consciousness gets associated with the nature. And that is what in verse number 21 Lord Krishna said, that प्रकृति में स्थित ही पुरुष प्रकृति के त्रिगुणात्मक पदार्थों को भोगता है. Now when we do that bhokta's work, when our consciousness does that bhokta's work, that association with nature gives us sato, rajo and tamo gun, and that leads us to birth and rebirth. We do certain good things in the nature. For example, we help some other people and we earn what we call punya, that will also lead us to rebirth. If we do some bad things and we earn pap, that will also lead us to the new birth. So the seed of new birth is sown in our consciousness because of this close association we establish between the nature and the consciousness. This is what Lord Krishna has explained in this entire chapter, that Prakriti is separate, Purush is separate. Now Prakriti does everything which happens in Prakriti, happenings are there. Prakriti is subject to constant change. Purush is constant, nothing happens there. He is also a karta. But because of this association of Prakriti and Purush in our body constitution, and we presume that this body constitution is Kshetragya, is consciousness, that causes the problem and that brings us back into this world. So that is why in verse number 22 he explained that this Kshetragya appears in 4 different parts. In the form of Bhokta, that is one. In the form of Anumanta, in the form of Updrashta, and in the form of Bharta. So we have to exclude that Bhokta part and we have to promote that Updrashta part more and more. Once we promote that Updrashta part of our consciousness, then slowly we would be able to segregate the two. And once we segregate the two, then Lord Krishna says that whatever you do, all that will be like Leela. Whatever you do, like Lord Krishna did all kinds of things. We see all his account in Mahabharata. He did all kinds of things, but since he was completely separating the two, the consciousness and the nature in our body mind system, that is why he was completely unaffected by the consequences of the nature. So this is what Lord Krishna says, कि once we are able to segregate the two and we are able to see body separately from our consciousness, then we reach a stage where we don't have to come back in this world and suffer. This is what he says. Now, this is what we also do in our meditation. In our meditation, we try to segregate the body slowly. We go to the body parts and then we go to the breath. And then finally, we try to put our mind to complete rest so that there's no thought process at all. And we remain one with the consciousness. Because once the thought process stops, you become in unity, you appear in unity with the consciousness. The body is dissolved, the mind is dissolved, and you become pure consciousness. And that is the state of samadhi. That is where you become updrashta totally. You become updrashta, you are not associated with nature. But as long as we remain in close association with nature, then The consciousness will act as bhokta, and we will continue to bring seed, and that seed will fructify in the form of a new birth. So this is what Lord Krishna is saying in verse number 23, and this is associated with verse number 21 and 22. Now let's go to verse number 24. उस परमात्मा को जितने ही मनुष्य शुद्ध हुई सूक्ष्म बुद्धि के द्वारा ध्यान से देखते हैं, अपने हृदय में देखते हैं, और अन्य कई योगी जन ज्ञान योग के द्वारा उस परमात्मा को देखते हैं, कुछ अन्य योगी जन कर्म योग के द्वारा उसको देखते हैं और उसे प्राप्त करते हैं. These are the three major paths, but there is one more path which will come in verse number 25. But these are the three major paths which he has described earlier also in Bhagavad Gita. That is, firstly, शुद्ध हुई सूक्ष्म बुद्धि के द्वारा. Now, to purify the mind and intellect and to make it sharp is a very difficult process, and that is possible only through sadhana. Now, normally what happens is, let me give you an example. For example, somebody makes a statement in favor of PM Modi, and somebody likes it very much, he appreciates it. Another person dislikes it and he criticizes it. Now, how does appreciation and criticism come from? Where? They come because of your association with XYZ. If you are closer to BJP thinking, then you will appreciate that statement. If you are closer to opposition thinking, you will criticize that statement. You are not neutral. You are not neutral because your buddhi is not suksham. Your buddhi is not purified. There is some sort of dilution in the buddhi. That's what we call in Sanskrit drashti kon. We have a particular angle of our drashti, of what we see. As long as we have that drashti kon, our buddhi and our intellect, our intellect and our mind is not suksham, is not pure. The objectivity comes when we are able to disassociate and remove that angle, and we become completely neutral. That is what happens when you try to purify your intellect. The purification of intellect comes through dhyan. When you are slowly establishing yourself in your pure consciousness, then this instrument called mind and intellect, these two instruments, which are very potent instruments, they become purified and your objectivity increases. That is what purification and suksham buddhi means. So this is what we need to understand Paramatma. Because as long as we are associated with the body and the world, we cannot see Paramatma. It is not possible. We can realize Paramatma only when we are able to disassociate from the body-mind complex. Then the Paramatma will be visible to each one of us in our own heart. Because he is the one who is giving us this energy to be alive. Just think, if that energy is not there, can we be alive? We will not be alive. So we will feel that he is the source of our life, source of our survival. He is our life. Then we will also feel that he is the one who is giving us whatever we need in our life to survive, whether it is food or water or air or clothing. How they come? They come because of his presence everywhere else. The sun rises and the moon has its few phases, and the rain has its own cycle, and the earth has fertility and the seeds are grown. All that is happening because of his power. His prowess. It is not, I have not created the sun, I have not created the moon, I have not created the oceans, I have not created the earth, I do not give fertility to the earth. And all this is happening because of his power. So once we start realizing that, then our association with the Paramatma becomes stronger. But that association will become stronger only when our mind and intellect get sharpened. So this is first thing, that शुद्ध हुई सूक्ष्म बुद्धि के द्वारा हम परमात्मा को अपने अंदर देख पाते हैं. That is possible to see it, and that is what he earlier said, that Paramatma is seated in everybody's heart, and that is why Aham Brahmasmi, that what we call Mahavakya of our Upanishads, is reiterated here once again. The second one is Gyan Yog ke dwara. This is part of the Gyan Yog. This is what we call, we understand the knowledge and then develop that knowledge. That is, so Gyan Yog is basically the distinction between, it is also referred here many times as Sankhya. That is Prakriti and Purus, the distinction between the two. We understand the two and we create that distinction so that we become Purush, we remain associated with Purush, and we see Prakriti only as an outside, things where things are happening, and we do not associate with them. So that is the Jnana Yoga, where the verse number 23 we discussed, that is Jnana Yoga. So one is Dhyana Yoga, that you see the Paramatma inside yourself. Second is Jnana Yoga, you distinguish between the Prakriti and Purus, or Kshetra and Kshetragya, and then you establish yourself with Kshetragya or with Purus. So that is the what you call Jnana Yoga. Then the third one is Karma Yoga. Now, Karma Yoga he has already explained in many times before, that you do all the activities which are required to be done. Understand the situation, do whatever is required to be done, but don't behave like a doer. That you are not the doer. You are an instrument of the Supreme in the process, and he is making you do certain things. Because there are billions of components in this world, one of those components is me, and I have been given a particular task by the Supreme. I am not the doer, I am just performing what I have been told to do. So this is what Karma Yoga is. Kartapan ka bhav, but doing all the things which are required to be done. So these three things, Dhyan Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga, these are the one which will lead you to total liberation. This is what he's saying, that once you attain any of those three, then you can attain total liberation, that is moksha. Now, all these three are not easy to attain. All these three require a lot of sadhana, and a large number of people are not able to do that. Whether you do Dhyana Yoga, whether you do Jnana Yoga, whether you do Karma Yoga, all that requires a very persistent, perseverant, practice over a period of time, which will put you in that path. Then what he says, verse number 25, परंतु इनसे दूसरे अर्थात जो मंद बुद्धि वाले पुरुष हैं, वे इस प्रकार न जानते हुए दूसरों से अर्थात तत्व को जानने वाले पुरुषों से सुनकर जिस तरह से वो कहते हैं उसकी उपासना करते हैं, तो वो मनुष्य भी संसार सागर से तर जाते हैं. नाउ दिस इज ए वेरी प्रैक्टिकल थिंग. This is a practical thing for large number of people who are not able to do sadhana either under Dhyana Yoga or under Jnana Yoga or under Karma Yoga. And they remain engaged all over in the world. They don't have that kind of discrimination, that kind of intellect which will take him in those directions. Now, what is the path for these people? Because 99% people fall in that category who are not able to perform this. For them, he says, he has used a word, Shruti Parayana. Shruti Parayana means जो सुनते हैं उसके अनुसार आचरण करना, उसके परायण हो जाना, उसी को फॉलो करना. Now, those people who have attained that knowledge based on one of the three paths, you listen to one of those persons or you listen to one of those writings by them, understand that writing and follow that with total commitment. Now you don't have to follow the path, you follow the writing which has been given by those people or the instructions which have given by that person. If you follow that instruction, then you would be able to overcome the cycle of birth and death. संसार सागर से, मृत्यु रूप संसार सागर से means the cycle of birth and death you would be able to overcome. So here there is a lot of emphasis on Guru, because Guru is the one which tells you what to do. So either in person or through his writings or through his, whatever, oral talks, he tells you what should be done. And if you follow that with a lot of commitment, Shraddha means total faith, total commitment, then also you are able to attain total liberation, that is moksha. So this is the path which is meant for those people who are not able to follow any of the three paths which are mentioned in verse number 24. Now, we go to verse number 26 and then we will analyze a few things. हे अर्जुन, यावन मात्र जितने भी स्थावर जंगम प्राणी उत्पन्न होते हैं उन सबको तू क्षेत्र और क्षेत्रज्ञ के संयोग से उत्पन्न जान. Now, whatever is existence, the word prani in Hindi is not actually the word in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit is basically whatever sthavar jangam, whatever is visible to you, whether it is moving or not moving. Sthavar and jangam means moving and not moving. Char achar. चर अचर संसार में जो भी कुछ दिखता है आपको, whatever you see in this moving and non-moving creation all around us, all that is the result of the mix of kshetra and kshetrajna. Kshetra and kshetrajna gives birth to all that manifestation which we see in this universe. So this is what he said earlier also in chapter 7, that para and apara shakti, which another word which he has used, gives birth to whatever you see in this universe. So here he is explaining that in another form, that whatever moving and non-moving things we see in this world, this is coming from the combination of kshetra and kshetrajna. This is also the first verse of Isavasya Upanishad, which says, Isa Vasyam Idam Sarvam. The Isa ka nivas sab jagah hai, yatinchai jagatyam jagat, whether that is charachar jagat, whether it is moving world or non-moving world. Exactly the same thing has been explained here, that whatever is we see in this universe is coming out of the combination of the two. Now, this is very important to understand here. Very often people ask us, what is the origin of this universe? When did it originate? Who gave this birth to him? So the answer of this lies here. Because he has already said, Lord Krishna, that Kshetra and Kshetrajna, Prakriti and Purus, they are anadi. They don't have any origin. They never originated. They never will die. They are all the time in existence. They may become dormant. They may become, particularly not particularly, only the Prakriti can become dormant. Purus is always unaltered. It remains constantly. and the combination of the two gives birth. That whole unfolding of the universe happens with the combination of the two. When the consciousness acts on the nature, then the world comes into existence, or world unfolds, not in existence, actually unfolds. And when the consciousness is withdrawn from all that, then the world becomes, it's called pralay, or it becomes lay into the consciousness. So the everything originates from that consciousness. Even the prakriti originates from there. The first element of prakriti is avyakt. Avyakt is the same supreme consciousness from where the prakriti originates. Then it gives birth to what we call mahat tattva, and then ahankar, and then five what we call tanmatras. So the origin of that is the same. The same consciousness gives birth to prakriti, and then when the consciousness is withdrawn from the nature, it becomes dissolved into the same consciousness. This is also the concept of Shiva and Shakti. The Shiva is the pure consciousness which is lying dormant. Shakti is the Prakriti with the movement which happens, and with that movement, the life force comes into being, the universe comes into being, the activities come into being. Now, all the changes that happen, they happen only in nature. They happen only in the elements which are starting from Mahatattva, Ahankar, five Tanmatras, five Gyanendriya, five Karmendriya, and five, the gross elements outside. And Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar, all the activities happen there. The consciousness is silent, non-doer, it's just observing, that's it. But because of the association of consciousness with our body-mind system, we presume that we are one. And that feeling of oneness within us gives rise to what we call, a situation of bhokta, where we are taking the consequences of what is happening in the nature. Like a flower is blooming outside in the nature, we feel it is very good. So that bhokta, that feeling of bhokta comes there. If, for example, there is no conscious being living and the flower is blooming, nobody will say it is good or bad. No feelings would be expressed. The feelings are expressed by this consciousness. But if we express that feeling fully knowing that things are happening in the nature and I am expressing this feeling as consciousness, then it is fine. It is not bhokta. It is just an observation. It's only lila. But when I get associated with the with these gross elements, nature, and then make these observations, then I become bhokta and I take the consequences. I create a seed which brings me back to the cycle of birth and life. So this is what. Now let me explain this by giving one or two examples. Now let me take, this is not a perfect example, but this will explain us a little bit clearly. We have electricity. Now electricity, you have an instrument called fan, you have another instrument called refrigerator, you have another instrument called laptop. Now the electricity goes to the laptop operates according to its own habits, according to its own constitution. When the electricity goes to refrigerator, refrigerator operates according to its own qualities. The electricity doesn't affect that. The electricity just provides energy to make it operational. But the operation happen according to the qualities of the refrigerator. The fan, when this get electricity, the activities happen according to the quality of the fan, not according to the electricity. So the same electricity operates in all these systems and many more, but the outcome or operation is in accordance to the quality of that constitution. Quality of that constitution means that, for example, it is a refrigerator or a fan or a air cooler or a laptop or a washing machine, whatever it is. So electricity is the same. It does not impact, it does not act It only provides energy to make that instrument operate. Exactly same is the situation of consciousness. Not exactly same. Don't misunderstand me, because there's tremendous difference between electricity and consciousness. But this gives a clearer picture to us to understand. The consciousness, when it comes into our body system, it provides energy to body system, it operates. But it operates according to its own nature. Now, same consciousness, somebody becomes angry, somebody becomes emotional, somebody becomes, very upset, disappointed, somebody doesn't care what happens. Now, the same consciousness is there. But according to the body system of the individual, the reaction happens. Somebody comes and abuses, use very derogatory language, it makes somebody very angry. Another person takes it in a humorous mood and laughs it out and you know wish him all the best. Third person ignores it, doesn't care. So you see that body system in which that consciousness operates creates your reaction, creates your feelings, not the consciousness. Consciousness does not create that feeling. The feelings are created by the nature, by the constitution of the body, which is nature. So this is what we need to understand, that my body is reacting according to its own nature. The same consciousness is flowing in me and you and everybody else, but my body is reacting according to its own nature, which we call swabhav. That swabhav is the combination of your seed. Like a neem tree and a mango tree, they have different swabhav. The same water, air, and sunlight goes to the two trees, but neem tree give a different, tree, and mango tree give a different tree. Similarly, in our case, the consciousness is the same, but depending on the constitution of our body structure, which is made of nature, the reaction happens. So if we can understand this, that why I am reacting this way, why other person is happy, why other person is not angry, why I am so emotional, because that is the constitution of your body system. You must understand that. Now, that rectification is possible in case of human beings. A refrigerator will not change. You give an electricity and refrigerator say, no, I don't want to remain refrigerator, I want to become a fan. That is not possible for that. But for a human being, somebody says, I become very angry, he is able to regulate his anger because we have that capability. So that is the difference between electricity and consciousness. Consciousness can make us rise above. We can improve. But electricity cannot make a refrigerator improve or a car improve. That is not possible. So that is possible in the human system. So this is how we should understand that the different reaction of different people, despite the same consciousness, is happening because of the different body constitution, different prakriti. उनकी प्रकृति अलग अलग है, उनकी जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है बॉडी का, उसमें जो इंग्रेडिएंट्स हैं, द फाइव sense organs and the five organ of motor organs, and then the body mind complex, they are all different, and because of that our reaction is different. And that is why if we don't see the reaction we should understand this is the nature which is reacting. eh? And we say you are also consciousness, I'm also consciousness. The bodies which are nature, they are reacting against each other. If we can reach that state, we can overcome the cycle of birth and death. This is what Lord Krishna is saying here, that basically the nature keeps making and unmaking, changing, but the consciousness remains constant, and this making, unmaking, changing nature should be left to its own. We should not worry about it. We should perform our action as we are required to perform and move forward. So this is what I thought I would mention in this to explain this point well. Now let's go to verse number 27. जो पुरुष नष्ट होते हुए सब चराचर भूतों में परमेश्वर को नाश रहित और संभाव से देखता है, वही यथार्थ देखता है. नाउ दिस इज a very profound statement, and in Sanskrit it reads like Samam Sarvesu Bhutesu Tishtam Parmeshwaram, and then Ye Paschati Se Paschati. This word Ye Paschati Se Paschati comes in Sanskrit very many times, that if you see this way, then you see the reality. If you don't see this way, then you don't see the reality. This is the drashtikon. This is what you see. See is the drashti. This is what paschati means. Ye paschati se paschati. Now, nas rahit purus is everywhere, on which the nashwar things come and go and come and go. Like we see, look at, let's imagine that this whole universe is empty. In this empty universe, the earth comes and the sun come, and moon comes and other systems come. They come and then they go, they come and then they go. But the overall power of their coming, going, sustaining stage, that power is the Parmeshwar, that power is the Paramatma. Like we see that I have come in this world, slowly, slowly I will decay, I'll become old and I'll die. But the death does not mean that the basic principle of life has gone. No. The consciousness remains. Somebody else will come with same consciousness. He will also pass through the same phases. He will also die. So as we see sometimes in management also, we see that the people come and go, the institutions remain. Exactly the same way, the things come and go, the people come and go, but the immortal, the eternal consciousness remains. And if we are able to see, realize that immortal consciousness which underlies everything that exists in this world, then we are able to see the reality. Then we can say, Ye Paschati Se Paschati. So if we are able to see that reality which underlies everything, which is moving, everything else is moving. It is passing through phases. The rain comes and the rain goes, and the river rises and river falls and river dries up. The human beings come and human beings die. The tree comes, the plant becomes tree, and then the flowers come and the fruit come and the tree dies and then goes back. So all that is happening where? All that is happening on the bosom of the consciousness. The consciousness is the foundation on which all that is happening. Like the waves are happening on the bosom of the ocean. If there is no ocean, there could be no waves. The waves are taking their shelter and their life in the same ocean, and they are dissolving in the same ocean. Similarly, all that we see, all those movements that we see in this world, they are happening on the bosom of the consciousness, and they are ultimately dissolving back into the same bosom. That is what is the reality. People come and go, the earth and planets come and go, the solar systems come and go, the houses come and go, but that underlying consciousness on which all that is happening, that stays intact. Let me give you another example to explain this. Now, Akash. Akash is completely undivided. But we make divisions. We create one house, you create another house. Somebody creates a go down, somebody creates a shopping mall. All that is happening, dividing the Akash. And you take a part of the Akash in your house. You see, this is my world. So you divided the Akash. Now, whether the Akash is in your house or you are in Akash, that you have to understand. Because without Akash, your house will not exist. So actually, you are in Akash. So everything originated from Akash, and once that house is demolished, that house will be again dissolved into Akash. The shopping mall came out of the Akash and will go back into Akash once it is destroyed. So it is not that Akash is in your house or in the shopping mall. It is the shopping mall which is existing in that Akash. But it appears to us that yes, this is Akash. We are all the time fighting for Akash, space. Whether we are traveling in aircraft, then we say, oh, I need a little more leg space. I need some, better seat to that is space, fight for space. You construct a house, so I need a little larger space, I need a bigger bedroom, I need this. There's a fight for space. So we always feel that, we are creating space. It is not so. It is in this Akash we are existing. And within that space we are fighting. So this is the feeling which we create for ourselves, that we are creating Akash for us. No. The house you are not creating. Your house is existing in Akash. Your shopping mall is existing in Akash. This whole earth is existing in Akash. The whole solar system is existing in Akash. And once they are destroyed, they dissolve into the same Akash. So this is what the Akash means. That is why in many of the Upanishads, Paramatma is also called Akash, because that is more, closer to our understanding, that everything originates from Akash and dissolves back into Akash. Let me give you another example. Now, you have a large city, big city. Say, for example, city of Pompeii. It was a very large city once upon a time in Italy. And then the whole city was destroyed. Or take the Rome, for example, ancient Rome, or any other city. They were destroyed. You have thousands of high-rise buildings today in a city. For example, there's a fire which takes place. The whole city, all buildings are destroyed. What happens to them? All that material disappears where? All that material disappears in Akash. You burn billions of liters of petrol every day on this earth. Where does it disappear? It disappears in Akash. Isn't it? You have all those high-rise buildings, once they are burnt, a very small quantity of ash will remain, but if you continue to burn that ash, that will also disappear, and that will disappear in Akash. So everything goes back to Akash, and everything comes back from Akash. How? How they come from Akash? For example, there's a small seed you put in the field, maybe half a gram. You put that seed. Out of that seed, the earth is there as it is. The water cycle remains as it is. The sunlight remains, but a 100-ton tree comes out of it. And thousands of such trees have come out of the same earth over the span of time. We did not contribute anything. The scientists asked how the matter formed, the formation of matter, the so-called God particle. Now that matter is forming by the Akash. Akash is making it happen. Everything which disappeared in Akash again reassembling there. It is coming back there. So everything goes back to Akash and it comes back into the world through various elements of Akash, whether it is air, whether it is sunlight, whether it is water, whether it is earth. Those are the elements of Akash, because Akash is the first thing which originates and the other elements originate from there, as we discussed this earlier. So all those elements contribute to make that tree, acquire 100 tons of weight. Now, once you burn that firewood of 100 tons, it again disappears into Akash. And then again it will come back into some tree. So this cycle of what we call Vilay, isko Udgam and Lay. That cycle of Udgam or Prabhav and Lay, Udgam or Lay, Prabhav or Lay, it continues in every single aspect of this nature. Nothing is destroyed, but they can, cycling itself in this nature. And that cycle is what Lord Krishna is referring here, that you see that moving cycle, but that moving cycle is happening on some basic ground. That ground is Parmeshwar. Here we took the example of Akash, but Akash also originates from something deeper, and that something deeper is fundamentally the universal consciousness or Paramatma or Ishwar, whatever name we give. From there, everything originates, in that, everything disappears. If we are able to see that, then ye paschati se paschati, when the day we will be able to see this happening, then we will see the reality. So this is the meaning of this particular verse, verse number 27, that that consciousness remains nash rahit. It is not, it does not depreciate, it is not destroyed, it remains intact as it is. It has been intact all the time, it is eternal. But the things which are happening in that consciousness, all the manifest things which we see in the world, they have their cycle. They originate there like the waves in the ocean, and then they again dissolve into the same ocean. Similarly, there's another example which is given by in Upanishads, that मकड़ी जैसे अपने जाले से अपने अपने शरीर से जाला क्रिएट करती है और फिर उसको निगल जाती है वापस. That मकड़ी is, that insect which takes out its own fluid and creates a big web around it, and then takes the web out back into the body. Similarly, the Paramatma has uh, given birth to this manifest universe from its own, body system, and it takes back into the same body once it is dissolved. So this is the reality which we can understand. This is the underlying reality which this chapter of Bhagavad Gita is explaining. Now we will have one more session on the remaining part of this chapter's verses, and I will like to tell you today that this is the first chapter in Bhagavad Gita. Since matlab, there will be one more, but this is the first chapter in Bhagavad Gita so far, where only Lord Krishna is speaking. Not a single question was raised by Arjuna. Lord Krishna is able to speak in a very consistent and very logical way, because there was no interruption, there was no question, there was no answer required. So he lucidly explained the entire process like a great teacher. That is why this chapter and the next chapter, which is also the chapter where Lord Krishna alone speaks, they give you in a very lucid manner all the fundamentals of life and existence. Other chapters also give, but they give in a different form, because that is based on the questions raised by Arjun. And then Lord Krishna is answering those questions. So they are not completely in that sequence in which they should be, because the sequence is based on the question answers. Here, the sequence is based on the total dedication of a teacher who wanted to explain Arjuna the overall existence of this universe, how it comes into being and how it goes. And this is what he has been able to do. And that is why these two chapters are highly sophisticated, highly scientific, deepest science, and they are in a sequence which enables us to understand everything. So I would like to stop here. Thank you very much. And in the next session, we will complete this chapter